My, oh my, 1 day closer to the Eagles kicking off their season against the New England Patriots. Sean Desai addressed the media yesterday. We'll get into that conversation. What kind of strategic edge the Eagles have going up against the Patriots? I find it very interesting. We'll get into that. Jonathan, again, a lot of talk. On top of the Phillies winning a series against the Padres in the football world, as per usual, leading up to a game. There's a lot of talk, but there's a lot of talk not just in the sport of football. So we got the Eagles coming up here against Patriots, which is very exciting. We got Jalen Hurts talking about what that means to the squad, what that means to him, the goal, and the importance of starting strong. And then we got some off the courts conversation surrounding James Harden. Now, I am going to continue my pledge to you to not be held hostage by James Harden. That's not happening, ladies and gentlemen. However, if there's a new piece of information, a new piece of news that comes out, we're going to just kick it around. I'm going to give you my take on it, and then we're going to move on with our very happy lives with our baseball team and our excitement for our football team, and we're going to bask in that joy and excitement. Now, to continue the talk, to continue the conversation, Jonathan Gannon did a lengthy interview with The Athletic where a couple of nuggets came out. One was Nick Sirianni giving up the play calling was his idea. It was Jonathan Gannon's idea. We'll get to that conversation. We'll talk about that with our friend Vince Quinn of Bell and the Birdman podcast, who will be joining us coming up in just a little bit. And we'll also get to the conversation about Jonathan Gannon. Supposedly, the way it was read by people was that he took responsibility for the Eagles' Super Bowl loss. That is not how I read it. We'll talk about that as the show goes on. He was rather giving sarcastic commentary. That's how I took it. So we'll have that conversation about our old friend Jonathan Gannon. But let's start it off with our Philadelphia Phillies baseball team and Kyle Schwarber helping lead the Phillies, as well as Bryce Harper and, of course, Zach Wheeler dealing 6 scoreless innings for the Phils. Kyle Schwarber, if you could set off a game and start off a game with a statement, my, oh my, how he set off that game and started off that game yesterday with a 465-foot blast to dead center field against the Padres. Now, here's the unfortunate thing. You saw that home run, you enjoyed that home run, and then you sat on the edge of your seat as the Phillies loaded the bases against Michael Wacha with nobody out, and then went down 1-2-3. Yeah, so you get the leadoff home run, which is great, and then you get nothing out of a bases loaded situation with nobody out. Good times. So you figure there's no way that's going to come back and bite you in the old behind, right? You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine throughout this game. Well, you were fine throughout this game, thanks in large part to Zach Wheeler and the way he was able to command his pitches yesterday. 6 scoreless innings, the 5th time this year he's gone 6 scoreless. All other Phillies pitchers have, I think, 4 combined. So that's pretty amazing. So Zach Wheeler was on top of his game yesterday. He didn't allow a base runner till the 4th inning. He only walked 2 throughout the game. He only gave up 1 hit throughout the game, and he used 105 pitches to get through those 6 scoreless innings of work. That's what you need from a guy who's supposed to be an ace. That's what you need from a guy who's supposed to be an ace, especially in the month of September, when you're looking to solidify your wild card standings or at least your playoff positioning. That's what you absolutely need to have. And we'll let you hear from Rob Thompson coming up for what he had to say after the game about Zach Wheeler's afternoon out there in San Diego. But he was absolutely dealing yesterday. 7 strikeouts through those 6 innings of work, and like I said, 105 pitches, and constantly just 1-2-3 innings, 1-2-3 innings, and shutdown innings, especially when the Phillies were able to get some damage done. Here's the thing. The Phillies had first and second with at most 1 out, 2 different occasions after they loaded the bases with nobody out, and they weren't able to capitalize. And then finally, Bryce Harper steps to the plate in a situation where you have 2 on, 2 out. Now, Bryce Harper was 0 for 20. It's part of the reason why he shaved his beard. 0 for 20. All right, wants to get back on the good groove, so to speak. So he steps up to the plate with 2 outs, and it's a 1-run ball game. You got 2 runners on. And this was so clutch. And Topper even acknowledged this as extremely clutch after the game. because it was. You had a couple opportunities to get some runs across the plate in that first inning, in the second inning, and the third inning, and you just weren't able to get everybody across the plate. Bryce Harper steps up 2 on, 2 out, and just lines the baseball to split the right center field gap, allowing 2 runs to score and allowing the Phillies to go up 3-0. That was huge. Then later they get a 18th home run of the year from JT Realmuto to get their 4th run of the ball game. They get their 5th run of the ball game. Jake Cave came in and he got an RBI single just off the mid of their shortstop and Bogarts, and you get another run to score. So they eked out some runs, and then they also belted some home runs. So that was fantastic. But great to see not only Bryce Harper get back into that groove, but you have another multi-hit game for Bryson Stott. You see Nick Castellanos, who has not played particularly well, not hit particularly well over the last 2 weeks of the season. Going into yesterday, he was hitting just .218 over his last 2 weeks. So that's not good. And then, of course, 2 nights ago, grounded into the 3 double plays, which is very difficult to do, making 7 outs in 4 at-bats. That's pretty good while seeing 6 pitches. That's hard. But, yeah, Nick Castellanos got a hit yesterday, which was at least good to see him get that. Any positivity you can take for Nick Castellanos at the plate at this point is going to be a very good thing. But loved what I saw yesterday from the Phillies, from Zach Wheeler in particular. Loved that I saw Bryce Harper help the Phillies tack on a couple of more runs. And how could you not love, even – if you're like me and you're like, it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense because they win. That's it. That's the only thing. Kyle Schwarber leading off to me is still amazing that you don't want to make sure you have more runners on for him as often as possible. I understand getting guys more plate appearances like that is great because it gives him the opportunity to hit more home runs, and that was his 41st home run of the season and his 10th home run leading off a ball game, breaking the Phillies franchise record set by a 1 J-roll. So that's an amazing thing. It still didn't make any sense to me that you don't want people on base for him to hit those home runs. Not that Trey Turner's there right now, he's on paternity leave, but even a Bryson Stott, having him at the top of the order, or having anybody, Trey Turner, for instance, right? Anybody at the top of the order, just to make sure that he is the guy that can drive in more runs. He's still going to get a lot of at-bats. He's still going to get a lot of plate appearances. He's still going to get opportunities now to drive in more runs. But for whatever reason, just works. Phillies win. And the ultimate stat where you just can crinkle up, roll up any type of analytic or any type of data and just throw it out the window and say, well, the only stat that matters is this one over here where it says W. We have all these check marks. And then over here where it says L, under that we don't have a lot of check marks on that. We have a lot of the W's, not a lot of the L's. And a lot of that happens when Kyle Schwarber's batting the top of the order. It doesn't make sense, but they just win. That's what they do. 10 home runs to the leadoff man, 41 home runs in the season is amazing. And here we are. I mentioned last week talking about Alec Boehm a lot, about how I really want to see him get to 20 home runs. And I do. I would love to see him get to 20 home runs. I know there's like 100 guys in Major League Baseball that are going to hit 100 home runs. So 100 home runs, 20 home runs, which isn't exactly a brag anymore when you have that many players hitting 20 home runs. But I would also feel really good, especially for JT Realmuto, for how he has struggled for half the season. Now, half that season is at home. He's gone on the road and been an incredible ball player, especially on this road trip with 3 home runs. But watching JT Realmuto and seeing him hit 18 home runs yesterday, getting his 18th home run of the season is great as well. I'd love to see him get to that 20 home run mark as well. I'd love to see, what would that be now? Possibly 4 Phillies getting to the 20 home run mark. So that would be pretty amazing, especially with the way some of these guys started out. Trey Turner being one of them. JT Realmuto, like I said, for half the season. Bryce Harper for missing the first 2 months of the season before coming back from Tommy John surgery. That is pretty incredible. And obviously they already have Kyle Schwarber at that mark twice over. So I just want to see the good vibes continue to happen here for the Phillies. If they are going to go through the rest of this month, and they got 7 games against the Braves, the Marlins right now have won 6 in a row. As we take a look at the wild card standings to see where the Phillies are at right now. I'm looking over here. The Phillies are 5 games into a wild card spot, so that's fantastic. The Cubs just keep on winning, baby. They're 3.5 games up in a wild card spot, so a game and a half behind the Phils. And the Marlins have moved into sole possession of the third and final wild card spot in the National League. Diamondbacks and Reds, a half game out. The San Francisco Giants are 2.5 games out, and then down there below, the San Diego Padres are now 7 games out of a wild card spot. So that's where the Phillies sit right now. If they want to continue to solidify their spot, they got to beat teams, the bad teams. Now, I know the Cardinals yesterday just put the hurt on the Braves, which I just never mind seeing. But they got the Cardinals left on this schedule. They got 7 left against the Mets. Don't you dare lose to the Mets. Dear Lord, don't you dare lose to the Mets. And they got the Pirates at home for 3. So those are 3 teams the Phillies are going to face where you better not do the thing, that nasty, horrible, ugly thing where you play down to your opponent. Don't you dare. 7 against the Mets, 3 against the Cardinals, 3 against the Pirates. They got 3 against the Marlins. They got another 7 coming up against the Braves. That's where it gets a little scary. That's where it gets a little scary. Although, who knows? Spencer Strider got rocked yesterday by the Cardinals. Thanks, Ari, and your St. Louis Cardinals for handling the business against Spencer Strider. Maybe that's it for Spencer Strider. Maybe he just won't be able to get out of his own head the rest of the way. Maybe. Oh, then if you have to pitch, if he has to pitch at Citizens Bank Park, where he's just gonna have nightmares. Oh man, he's gonna be checking under his bed for healthy Rhys Hoskins. What? Yeah. So don't do the thing, Phillies, where you play down to your opponent. That'd be really good. As far as getting to that point and being excited about getting to that point, it's going to take a lot of pitching. And yesterday, Rob Thompson was asked about the stuff that Zach Wheeler was putting out there on display in San Diego.
I don't know how many punch-outs he had. 7 punch-outs. He's throwing the ball great. He really is. And, I mean, you keep that lineup. He had 1 hit on him, but you keep that lineup 3 hits in a game, you're doing some pitching.
I feel like that's what an ace-type pitcher does, end of a road trip. Rotation's kind of gotten beaten around a little bit the last few days. Steps up for you there?
Yeah, no doubt. And really, if it was a different day, I would have sent him out for another one.
What? Send him up for another 105 pitch? Maybe that's what he means. If it wasn't 105 pitches, he'd send him out for another one. I was curious because you look at the schedule right now with the Phillies. They got the off day today, and then tomorrow they start a 3-game series with the Marlins. Sandy Alcantara, by the way, put on the IL, so the Phillies aren't going to see Sandy Alcantara, who they have, for the most part, struggling. They tattooed him for, I think, 6 runs early in the season, and then boy, did he dominate them from that point on. But here's how it shapes up for the Phillies as far as the rest of the week goes. So the off day today, then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They don't have another off day until next Thursday. So they have the doubleheader with the Braves on Monday, September 11th. Sanchez, Nola, Suarez, Walker, Lorenzen, and then back to Sanchez, and then Wheeler. So he's going to have a lot of time off in between starts. Now, I don't know if he said if it was a different day, it can't mean, well, the Phillies need extra rest for him, but he's going to get extra rest. It's got to mean that if he was at 90 pitches, he probably would have put him out for the 7th inning. But unfortunately, he just wasn't at 90 pitches. He was 105 pitches after 6 innings. And by the way, he did get that last out that he had, went right through the wickets of Bryce Harper at first base. And then right there, Johnny on the spot, Bryson Stott was there to clean it up and get the final out of that 6th inning. To get Zach Wheeler out of there with 105 pitches and 6 scoreless, which is fantastic. But I have to assume that if he said a different day, then that means, a different day where he didn't have 105 pitches. So I was curious to see whether or not the Phillies were going to shake up the order at all, shake up the rotation. But Rob Thompson didn't allude to that at all. He alluded to the idea that you're going to have extra rest for Zach Wheeler before 6 days rest before he has to come back out, which is going to be on that Wednesday against the Braves in the final game of what will be a 4-game series. Ladies, gentlemen, here you go. You got a 7-game homestand coming up here, 3 against the Marlins, 4 against the Braves. Then you travel over to St. Louis for a 3-game road trip there, and then a 3-game road trip in Atlanta. Then you're done with the Braves by September 20th. And then 4 against the Mets at home, 3 against the Pirates at home, and then 3 in New York for the final 3 games of the season, September 29th, September 30th, and October 1st. That's where we will be at when it comes to your Philadelphia Phillies. Ain't it exciting? Oh, it's exciting. Let's talk a little football. I want to get to this Jonathan Gannon story before I get to anything else, before we get to our friend Vince Quinn. So if you read the story from The Athletic, there's a couple of things that jump out. And it helps shed light on what's happening now in Philadelphia. The first thing I want to get to is the line about admitting they lost the Super Bowl because of him. No. It was of the same note that Jonathan Gannon said the thing about how they were 9-0, which they weren't, and Philly media wanted to fire him. You should be fired. He made it seem so literal when it was just like, is he trying to be like, that's so not based in reality. Like, what is he even talking about? So it's like everything he says from this point on is kind of grain of salt. Then I see the introduction video or the meeting that has been circulating about how, did you have that fire in your belly? Did you have that fire in your gut when you were driving in today? And I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is weird. I'm not, if I'm in that room, am I motivated by this? Anyway, I don't think so. So he comes out and he says, they lost the Super Bowl because of me. That's the way I read it. It was like everyone wants to blame him, but there's a million other things that could have gone the Eagles' way and his way. So I did not take that at all as him saying, oh, yeah, this is my fault. Oh, man, I'm so sad. This is my fault. As I would have liked it to be. Maybe some people just read that with that already in their head, thinking, oh, well, finally he's admitting it. Yeah, no, it's not the case. So I hate to burst people's bubble on that. The second thing is the conversation it details between Gannon, according to Gannon, between Gannon and Sirianni. Very important to cite the source here. Consider the source here. Jonathan Gannon says that the Eagles were 2-0 or 2-5, and they're really struggling. And Nick Sirianni apparently was struggling with play calling and balancing that and balancing being the head coach and all that stuff. And Jonathan Gannon says to his buddy, his pal, his compadre, Nick Sirianni, hey, man, how about you just give the play calling to Shane? And then Nick Sirianni's like, well, then it'll be considered a failure. And Jonathan Gannon then again, in another stroke of brilliance, says, who cares? If we're 3-15 or 2-15, we're all going to be fired. And then this part I'm making up. Then Nick Sirianni said, Jonathan Gannon, you brilliant human, you beautiful, brilliant man. What a great piece of advice. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. And then Nick Sirianni bequeathed the play calling to Shane Steichen, and that has been a change. That was a change, but it was the defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, now head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, giving the idea to Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni addresses the media today, I believe, and I can assume that question is going to come up at a press conference. Nick Sirianni, I don't think is going to answer the question, but he's got to be asked the question. Today is, I want to make sure I have this right. Today's Thursday. Nick Sirianni talks tomorrow. Michael Clay and Brian Johnson speak today. Special teams and offense coordinators speak today. But Nick Sirianni speaks tomorrow. I'm sure he's going to be asked about it. I don't think he answers it. I think we're going to keep that in-house. That's the way I think that's going to go. All in-house conversation. And that's the thing that really surprised me. That Gannon would get into that. Like, that's bull. Like, let's just forget about for a second whether or not it's true. Jonathan Gannon airing dirty laundry or giving up trade secrets that just make him look brilliant and make everyone else look stupid is stupid. Like, when I read it for the first, my first inclination was, dude, airing this out? Really? All right. I thought, what happened to the circle of trust, I guess? I don't know. But it makes me look good, so there we go. I'm going to be fine. I just get more of a sense of Jonathan Gannon, a lack of self-awareness as his NFL coaching career goes on, whether it be a coordinator or head coach. So that's the first thing that jumped out. And the second is I don't believe you. Right? When you exaggerate things, and you already exaggerated things like 9-0 with the Eagles last year, like the media telling you that they wanted you fired. That what? No. That just doesn't make any damn sense. And then the sarcastic, we lost the Super Bowl because of me. That just is the cherry on top of I'm done with this guy. And I'm glad he's not our problem anymore. And if I'm guessing how it goes down in Arizona, he seems right now like a 2-year head coach. That's what he seems like. They don't want to admit the mistake right out of the gate and say, oh, he's done. But you to give him another year and then done again, and then they'll move on. But that's what, if I had to guess how long his tenure is going to be, take my best educated guess, my hypothesis would be that Jonathan Gannon is going to be done after 2 years. That's the way I see it working out for him in Arizona. And not just because of this, but mainly because of how he was a defensive coordinator. And then listen to that pep talk. Ugh. He's just an awkward dude. Just a really awkward dude. Anyway, so that's what we'll get into that conversation again with our friend Vince Quinn coming up in a second. The other thing that we'll get into is, and we'll get into this after we talk to Vince Quinn a little bit more, but Sean Desai yesterday when he was addressing the media talked about an advantage. Let's get to what's on the field now, okay? The Eagles are going to New England to take on the Patriots. Everyone wants to talk about Bill Belichick's defense. You've seen Bill Belichick's defense, but he could be obviously a brilliant tactician, a brilliant strategist. There's one advantage that Sean Desai talked about yesterday, if there is any advantage. The idea that they haven't seen his defense yet. They've seen him in Chicago for a year, but they haven't seen his defense with Fletcher Cox, Josh Sweat, Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. They haven't seen his defense with Darius Slay, with James Bradbury playing the nickel sometimes. What? And then Avonte Maddox. They haven't seen his defense. So what's Mac Jones studying right now? What's Bill O'Brien, who is not a slouch when it comes to being an offensive coordinator, certainly. It's not his first day. It's not his first rodeo. What are they planning? What are they watching? What are they breaking down? Are they watching Vic Fangio tapes? Because one thing that, you might just say I'm gullible, but one thing that I do believe is that, and I hesitate to say this because I know people like to jump to the top shelf with this. It's not Jim Johnson, okay? It's not Buddy Ryan. That level of aggression is dead. That's not happening, okay? But when it comes to this Eagles team and what we could be seeing from Sean Desai's defense, we're going to see a noticeably more aggressive defense. 70 sacks, 60 sacks, 50 sacks, whatever number you want to throw out there when it comes to the sack number, that's fine. I want to see quarterbacks uncomfortable and making mistakes. Hey, look, it's great to bring a quarterback down 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And if I could take that 70 more times this season, I'm taking it. But you know what else I'll take? I'll take the first half of the year where the Eagles were one of the best teams in the NFL at takeaways. I want to see that again. I want to see this Eagles defense. You want to know how I'll really determine whether or not they're more aggressive? If I'm seeing the quarterback just throw balls up in the air because they just want to get rid of it and they're making mistakes, or they're running away and the ball just slips out of their hand and the Eagles recover a fumble, or Brandon Graham strip sack. That's how I'll know this defense is a lot more aggressive. And probably the biggest sign that it will be is if I see the Kobe Dean coming up the middle to get after the quarterback more than I ever saw TJ Edwards do. That'll be a big sign to me that Sean Desai really does, as he said in his introductory press conference, want this defense to A, reflect the city, and B, be palpable. You're not going to be felt if you're just standing around waiting for another team to make a mistake. You're going to be felt when you're forcing that mistake. That is the biggest reason why I think this team is going to be noticeably more aggressive. Not crazily aggressive. They're not going to be setting the house every play. They're not going to be setting the house every fourth down. That's not what I'm talking about. But just noticeably, like, they're coming in up the middle. No way. Oh, look, Nolan Smith and Hassan Reddick getting around the edge at the same time. No way. Seeing that more consistently, I think that will be more noticeable than what we saw ever from Jonathan Gibb. It's not necessarily about 60 or 70 sacks in the upcoming season. It's great to look at 50 sacks and be like, they'll get that. Eagles will get that. It's not about that. It's about making sure the quarterback or really any ball carrier is uncomfortable. And I think the biggest showing of the cards is going to be the Kobe Dean through the middle. And that's what I look forward to seeing. So I do think you're going to see that from Sean Desai. The other idea that came up here with Vince Quinn when we were talking was Brandon Graham. They're going to give Tom Brady something on Tom Brady Day in New England, right? How great would it be if Brandon Graham just came out of nowhere and just smacked out of his hands? That'd be great, right? That'd be awesome. Just brainstorm. I'm just brainstorming. That's all I'm saying. All right. Let's continue this. Coming up in the morning rush, we will break down this James Harden fiasco, as I mentioned a second ago. We'll get to that. But without further ado, let's get to our guest today. From Bell and the Birdman podcast, our good friend, Mr. Vince Quinn, breaks down the birds with us right now. The show right now from Bell and the Birdmen podcast that he does with our mutual friend John Barchard, as well as doing fantastic things with SBX Productions, Mr. Vince Quinn. What's going on, Vincenzo?
Hi, buddy. We finally have football. Isn't it nice? I don't know about you, but the dumb things that I would get into in this offseason, just like random rabbit holes of stuff, video games I wasted my time on for hours on end. Like it's just been such a sink, and at least I want to put it into something productive, which is watching other people hit each other at like 40 miles per hour. So I can't wait.
I have to ask, what is the video game that has been occupying Vince Quinn's downtime? What has been your escape from reality?
Oh, number one is Hitman right now. Have you ever played Hitman?
Whoa, Hitman with the bald Agent 47, that guy?
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah, I play that. I've watched the movies because, as you know, I am a nerd.
Yeah, well, hey, the nerds are great. If you want to go nerd for nerd, I play Magic the Gathering, so there's a card to pull. Okay. Yeah, I know. Andy's handsome, but but Hitman is like one of the greatest games ever. I've been playing it nonstop. It's the best, and I'll have to put that to an end soon.
Yeah, I just got done an MLB The Show addiction. Like I don't know if you're like me, man, but if you hit a video game stride, it's just like you just got to power through. You need a month to play it nonstop, and then I won't play it for like 2 years, then I'll be back to it, and I'll get on another game.
That's how it is. You get obsessed with something, and then it consumes your life, and you have issues with your spouse or significant other, and then you write those things with flowers or something, and you resume your life.
This is, you know what? It's more than just football talk, folks. It's life.
That's right.
Vince, I do have to say, I love you and Barchard together. I love you and Barchard in the videos that I see come up throughout my timeline, throughout all my social media accounts. It usually consists of both of you losing your mind, the other losing it slightly more than the other. And then every once in a while, it's somebody talking the other off the ledge. So it's a great balance to you guys flipping out over, let's just say, Jonathan Gannon saying that everything great that happened in Philadelphia was his idea.
Yeah, Jonathan Gannon, scum of the earth. I mean, just one of the least compelling speakers that you've ever seen in your life. And somebody talk about getting mad at people. Everybody's mad at John right now because he predicted the Eagles will lose to the Cardinals later this season. And people got so mad about that. It was great. And I'm kind of mad at him about it too, because John's whole argument was, oh, well, for the Cardinals, they'll be losing all these games and it's the end of the season and beating the Eagles will be their Super Bowl, which means, Jonathan Gannon will be taking calls from another team while he's supposed to be getting ready for that game. So I don't see anything with the Cardinals, man. Like, Gannon stuff is the worst. I'm glad he's out of town. Steichen's in a terrible place now. I mean, I think both those guys regret not being in Philly.
Well, I think Steichen at least has a quarterback. Like, I think Anthony Richardson is going to be a good quarterback in this league. And I think Shane Steichen, I mean, look, Jalen Hurts' success is 99.99999% Jalen Hurts, but he also had some good people around him, both obviously Nick Sirianni and then Shane Steichen was the right guy at the right time. I think so. I think he's in a much better spot than Gannon is, at least in Arizona.
Oh, no, he is. If only, Jim Irsay can get that dead whale carcass flown in and have it play offensive line. I don't know what else he's going to do much. I mean, all the Jonathan Taylor stuff is crazy. And right. you just think about how erratic Irsay is in general, man. It's just so ugly over there. It's unnecessarily ugly. You know what I mean? And that's why I love the Eagles and the way they do business and having all these veteran guys and the continuity, because you get to this point where you're like, oh, wow, nobody's getting arrested. Nobody's saying anything particularly crazy. Like, what is the biggest issue with this team right now? Derek Barnett wants a trade. Like, who cares?
That's like
defensive end.
It's like Furkan Korkmaz demanding a trade. Like, that's kind of how it made me feel. It gave me Korkmaz vibes, is what it gave me. But explain this one thing now that we're on the subject. Not Derek Barnett just yet, but this is with the Colts. Okay, just so Jim Irsay fires Frank
Jeff
Reich.
Saturday. Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, all right. So let's going back a little bit. He fires Frank Reich, who happens to be the best friend and mentor to Nick Sirianni, who brought in Shane Steichen to Philadelphia. Now Shane Steichen leaves Philadelphia, and an underling of a disciple of Frank Reich, and hires Shane Steichen, who was obviously the offensive coordinator of Nick Sirianni. Now Nick Sirianni made it very public, especially after the Eagles came back to beat the Colts last year with that great fourth quarter by Jalen Hurts. Well, yeah, that was for Frank Reich. So now it's like Shane Steichen got to look over his shoulder if he gets a text from Nick Sirianni, like, oh, you're still friends with him. Oh, you're still friends with him. You think that's happening? Because that's how I see it happen. Oh, you still talk to him? Oh, you still talk? Oh, really? Oh, really? Tell me. I don't put it past Irsay. I don't put it past him a little bit.
Yeah, I think part of it, I wonder if on some level this is Irsay's conscience admitting he was completely wrong to fire Frank Reich, right? Like to go and get somebody that was in that cycle and go into the tree and bring that guy in is like, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't have hired a guy that's been in a studio for 10 years at least and like has never coached anything in his life. Maybe that's not the best idea. And then he's like, well, I can't hire Frank back. He's probably not going to do that. So let me just go and get Shane and see what happens. Like it's just it's a very strange thing. And for Sirianni, as weird as it is that like he is in Indy now and he's got to go against this guy, but like it's cool to see that somebody was so respected for what they did with that coaching job. Because you know what it is for me when I think about the Eagles and what this team's been the last couple of years? It's not as much last year, but it's when they were like 2-5 and they were playing the Lions their first season together, and everyone was like, oh my God, if they lose to the Lions, this is over. This whole thing's done. And then they won like 7 games straight. They make the playoffs. They go on this run. They turn the whole thing around. Like it's a miraculous turnaround. And for all those guys, whether you think they're going to flop in Arizona, which they will or not, it is impressive that they turned that all around. And it says so much about Sirianni and just like the respect he gets and the way he builds culture and all those things. It's just, it's crazy.
To wrap up the past while transitioning to the future here, what did you make of Jonathan Gannon saying that it was his idea for Nick Sirianni after the Flower Power speech, or maybe before the Flower Power speech, right at that Lions game? Maybe it's a great idea if you have Shane Steichen call the plays. What did you make of that story from The Athletic on Jonathan Gannon?
Yeah, I mean, it's smart, right? Like, because that's one of those things that I think is a general problem with the league when you look at it as a whole. Everybody's supposed to be Sean McVay, you know? It's,
right.
Well, he can call plays and he can coach the team. And, like, to do both of those things is really hard. It's a difficult thing. So, like, unless you can memorize everything that you ate since 1984, which Sean McVay does, I'm sure, he's just a weird guy, crazy brain. So, like, unless you're somebody like that, that's a lot of work, man. And I don't think there's any shame in a head coach, especially a young guy, to go, you know what? We got a lot of things going on here. Everybody's got to handle their own responsibilities. I'm going to make sure we're good big picture and then just manage the timeouts and check in on guys and do those kinds of things. Like it takes a lot of humility that I don't think people have for the most part, right? Like how many guys are head coaches that will never do that? They'd rather just get fired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're dead on with that. As far as now the transition, I look at the biggest question I have with this Eagles season as the coordinators, and I've been saying it the whole time. Look, the coordinators that were here, there was obviously a lot of success with Jonathan Gannon, with Shane Steichen. How much, if any, of a drop-off is there going from Gannon to Desai or going from Steichen to Johnson? What do you think?
None. I think they're going to get better with the coaching because, you know, one of the things is with Hurts that's pretty crazy is like, he didn't have a whole lot of audibles. You're not seeing him at the line of scrimmage moving a million things around. Omaha, all the dumb stuff. Like, he's not doing that. He's going up. He's calling the play. He's executing the play. But there were a couple of moments during the season last year where you mentioned the Colts game in that fourth quarter drive. Like, he decides to tuck the ball and run. His decision-making is great. Times where he said he basically drew a play in the dirt in the moment, and they scored. Like Devontae Smith had a touchdown, I think, in the Washington game like that. There's all these smart things that he's got, and that's part of what makes him so great. And it sounds like they're going to give him more say in the offense that way, which is just going to make the offense better. Let him make tweaks at the line of scrimmage. He's not an idiot. He's proven himself. He holds on to the ball. Like, just let him do his thing and give him all the control he can possibly get. So I think on that side, it's better. And then, like, for everything I'm seeing and hearing with Desai, you're seeing linebackers and the idea of these guys in the middle, especially blitzing, which, like, otherwise, I don't know what good a linebacker is. They're pretty useless to me. I don't see, like, the real value they bring anymore. You've got all these guys in the slot. You're switching safeties around. You're like, Bradbury's going to play outside, inside. Like, it's all about flexibility with all those positions. That there's more receivers and spreading guys out and that kind of thing. So to be able to go, you know what, we're going to get all these linebackers. We're just going to blitz them like crazy, and we're going to see how that goes. I'm all for it. Like, let's break the sack record this year, which they almost did last year. Like, let's see if they can do it.
On that note, I really don't think with Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, and obviously the return of Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat and Fletcher Cox, all these great guys that they have. Like, people are like, oh, 70 sacks, don't be expecting that again. I'm like, all right, well, the safety position probably not going to be as good right from the jump. But like, that's the one big hit. But you got a better blitzing linebacker now and what you have in Nakobe. So, like, I don't think it's that crazy that you could be talking about at least another 60-plus sack season. Is that crazy, Vince Quinn?
No, because here's part of it, too. Like, you lost Javon Hargrave. He was great, but Jalen Carter, Farzy, baby rhino, do, baby. Like, it's happening. This guy is going to do, I mean, I'm legitimately think he's going to have like 8.5 sacks this year. I don't see why he won't. I mean, you could look at this team and go, he is right now, I don't know, the second or third best pass rusher that people are going to give attention to start the year. Like, they're going to say, oh, this kid's probably good, but he's going to earn it. You know what I mean? So, like, these first couple of weeks, if he's out there and Reddick looks like himself, who knows with the thumb, but if he looks mostly like himself, Josh Sweat looks like himself, he's going to have a lot of opportunity one-on-ones, and there's no reason why he can't have a ton of sacks. So, like, between him and all these other guys and the blitzing I mean, they're going to get a lot of sacks, man. It's going to be awesome.
All right, so wait, on that note then, I know people have been really cautious with using the word, aggressive or more aggressive or more blitzing more, whatever it might be. Do you think Sean Desai does kick it up the slightest bit more so than Jonathan Gannon in terms of trying to force mistakes with blitzes?
Yeah, I think he's going to. That's all I've been hearing, nonstop from all of his previous stops. That's the kind of guy that he is. So you know what? Why not do it here? And if you do believe that, like, especially over the top, if you're not fully confident in what that's going to be, go send the heat. Like, go make it happen, force bad plays, and believe in all these guys. Because, like, you look at all these guys in the secondary, man, and the ability to catch the ball and make a play is real, So it like, that's an exciting thing to have, and you might as well go after people and force them into those kinds of spots. Because, like, turnovers, the same thing as everything else, right? It's big plays, it's turnovers. How do you generate those things? And I figure that's what they're going to do.
All right. When it comes to some of the newcomers here, or let's just say some of the unproven commodities that the Eagles have, whether rookies or whatever, who do you think does have that breakout season? Who do you think is the guy that's going to make us go, oh, this guy, damn? Who do you think that guy is?
Yeah, well, the one guy it's been for 6 years, and it kills me that he never gets the love, is Greg Ward. Can we just keep him on the roster, please? For the love of God, can we get somebody who's like a legitimate professional wide receiver and always catches the ball and does nothing but score touchdowns? He's modern day Chris Carter. Can we just leave him on the team? Can we just let him be the greatest receiver to ever live? Can we just allow that?
That's going to be the hottest take. That's going to be the hottest take for quite some time, my friend. That's not even. It's barely week one. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, this is just who I am. I love Greg Ward, and I was preparing myself to get a Kelly Green Greg Ward jersey custom made. That is my guy. I'm all in. It's the Ward Horde, as we like to call it over at Bell and the Birdman, the Ward Horde. Yeah. So all in on Greg. He should just be on the team. So that's one. Yeah.
If you have to custom make the jersey, Vince, then
the team's failed you. The team's failed you is really what's happened. The team are really fanatics.
Yeah. All right. Who's number 2 on your list, you crazy bastard?
Yeah, Eli Ricks. I love Eli Ricks. I mean, everything about that guy. Look, Alabama player, the whole problem with him was maturity stuff, which makes sense, right? I mean, you get all these kids, like, they're all kids, first off. You're all 21, 22 years old. Like, they're going to have their own issues. So, to be a good player at Alabama like that, go undrafted, make the team now already when they are ruthlessly competitive at corner. I mean, it's such a different game to look at this now compared to where it was like 5 years ago with the quality of guys they have on this team. The depth is crazy. So to have a kid like that who had a pick 6 in the preseason, looked awesome in that moment. The length on him is great. Honestly, I was a big Keely Ringo fan when he came into the draft and figured the Eagles would get him, and I was thrilled when they did. I didn't think it'd be that late. But the more I've sat and thought about it, I wouldn't be surprised if Ricks is on this team longer than Keely Ringo.
Ooh, love it. Love it. Spicy meatballs coming out left and right. All right.
You Italians. Anyway.
Do you believe in the Super Bowl hangover?
Not for this team. I believe in it for everybody else. But I really do. I am maybe.
Why? Sell me on it without being like me, a rose-colored glass homer. You know what I'm saying? Sell me on it.
Yeah. Well, here's part of it. Jalen Hurts. Have you looked at his phone screen? Because he won't talk about it. But the guy spent the whole offseason going, I'm the biggest loser in the world. I can't believe I'm such an idiot when lost that game. Like, oh my God, I'm so mad about it. So, like, that guy is nonstop. He is relentless. A.J. Brown is nonstop. They're best friends. Devontae Smith gets it. The chemistry's there. Like, for all the older guys, they're still hungry and nasty. Like, if you're telling me Brandon Graham is not going into this game on Tom Brady Day wanting to be the meanest SOB on the planet and talk smack to Brady, you're out of your mind. Like that's who these guys are. That's what's ingrained in them. So I think just from that idea of like, we have something to prove. And here's the other side too. How many teams have lost the Super Bowl because the field was complete garbage? Okay. Like they played on an ice skating rink. It cost them the Super Bowl. And I think they have every reason to be mad about that. So, yeah, like I think a lot of teams get full of themselves or whatever. And it's like, hey, we did it and whatever. We got there and we're going to sign autographs until we're 75 now. This is great. So, like, you can get excited about that. But these guys actually want to win. Like, you don't sign a deal like Jalen Hurts did if you don't actually want to win. And he signed a really cheap deal, you know?
Oh, and it's about to be really cheap, whatever Joe Burrow is about to sign. Let's look at it like this, all right? And you just gave me this idea. They're going to give Brady something. Like every so-and-so's day, they give, something, right? So, like, whether it's a jersey, which he doesn't need, obviously, whether it's like an empty golf bag, like I think they gave Mike Quick here in Philadelphia many years ago, maybe a Harley, like they gave Irvin Fryer, and then he went to play for Washington, and he gave him the motorcycle back, supposedly. Like, all that stuff. They're going to give Brady something. How great would it be if, like, Brandon Graham just came out of nowhere and knocked it out of his hands? That'd be great, wouldn't it? Would that ruin Tom Brady Day? I think that'd be a wonderful moment.
That would be great. I saw, I don't know if this is true. I saw that his license plate is actually strip sack for Brandon Graham.
That is fantastic.
It's so good.
Oh, that is fantastic. All right. I'll ask you this last thing. You have a bold prediction, something now aside from just a player, Eli Ricks, you mentioned him as a breakout guy. Obviously, Greg Ward is too, you psycho. Yep. But is there another bold prediction you can make about this Eagles team other than they're going to win the Super Bowl?
Ooh, okay. Man, Jalen Hurts, 4,200 yards passing.
Oh, I feel that. That's just, yeah. I feel immediate euphoria. Because he does that, he's the MVP. He does that, he's the MVP of the league. Because I think if he's doing that, it's not just going to be in the fourth quarter where he's, cracking, making stats happen and all that stuff, but he's just like every other quarterback in the NFL that is an elite thrower, he's putting himself in that category if he's throwing for 4,000 plus.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what, like, I think about this, right? I think they're going to give him more of the offense. So that's going to happen. He's going to be able to call more plays. I think he's just going to want to throw the ball himself more in general. And I think they want to protect him a little bit more. Like, that's one of the most fascinating philosophical things when you look at the start of this season and where the whole trajectory is with Hurts. Because before it was like, I don't know if he's any good. He can't throw the ball over the middle. We have no idea if he's really a starter or not. Like, let's see what happens. So they give him the job, and he kills it beyond belief. So now it's like, okay, well, are we going to run him a million times? Or is he still going to be a major part of the offense? Like, in that way? I mean, sure, you're going to run the read options, but how much do you want him to actually keep it? I don't know. So yeah. I think all of that is going to lead to a transition somewhere, but they're so good that there's no way they don't put up a ton of points, even though they're playing great teams. And so I just think he's going to throw the ball like crazy. So, yeah, 4,200 yards.
I love it. Love every second of it. His name is Vince Quinn, ladies and gentlemen. Check him out. Bell and the Birdman podcast, obviously. Check him out on social media. Of course, we'll show you the fine social media platform. You guys check it out. And also SBX Production as well. Vincenzo Always great catching up with you, my friend. And thank you. Now I'm going to have Baby Rhino do in my head for the rest of the day. He'll take the place of Baby Shark.
You're welcome. See you, buddy.
The great Vince Quinn joining us right there. The one, the only Mr. Vince Quinn. The one, the only Mr. Vince Quinn. Always great catching up with him. I love his take. Absolutely love the idea that he admits he's a homer. But also loves the idea that that Jonathan Gannon is just out of his gourd. He's out of his gourd when it comes to being a head coach. And yes, I do believe that you have a guy like Shane Steichen who's a much better position there in Indianapolis, minus the crazy. So thanks again to Vince Quinn. Real quick, before I get to you guys in the chat, I want to hit this one. There's a couple of things said yesterday by Jalen Hurts and Bill Belichick. Now, I want you to hear the context first, because context is important. You might have seen a couple of things coming out of Bill Belichick's press conference yesterday. One was that he said this Eagles defensive front, this defensive line, is the best in the league by quite a bit. Okay, you probably saw that. The other is that he called Jalen Hurts maybe the best player in the league. I want to make sure you have the right context to that. Now, he did say that, but this is the way that the question was posed. The question was posed surrounding Malik Cunningham, who's an undrafted quarterback, a very athletic, undrafted quarterback out of Louisville that the Patriots have there on the practice squad, running a scout team for him, okay? So I got to ask the question. I'll just let it play out in all its Belichick's brilliance.
In preparing for Jalen Hurts, is it valuable to have someone like Malik Cunningham who might be able to give you some similar looks on the scout team?
Yeah, no, I mean, Malik's got some good skills. I mean, I think it'd be a stretch to compare Malik Cunningham to Jalen Hurts now. I mean, talking about a guy who was second in MVP voting last year, or whatever he was. I don't know. I mean, it's, so, yeah, athletically there's some similarities, but I mean, talking about arguably the best player in the league or one of the top 2 or 3 best players in the league. Nobody has anybody that can beat him. And if they do, the guy's probably not playing on a scout team for that team anyway. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. That's, we go through that every week.
First off, in watching Bill Belichick's press conference yesterday, I don't know how his press conferences are ever more than 5 minutes. But anyway, look, the reporter asked like a legit question that seemingly gets asked all the time when you just have a guy that's very versatile and a guy that is very quick and very athletic. And Bill Belichick took the comparison very literal, but he wasn't really making that comparison necessarily. But if it leads to Bill Belichick calling Jalen Hurts arguably the best player in the league, then I'll take it. That's fine. If Bill Belichick's offering more than what the question is asking, I'm in, because you don't really get that from old Bill too often. But that's the respect that Bill Belichick has for Jalen Hurts. Now, Jalen Hurts yesterday was asked about Bill Belichick's comment, calling him one of the best players, if not the best player in the league. And Jalen Hurts, of course, returned the favor.
I think he's arguably one of the best coaches to ever coach this game. You know, the consistency he's been able to have and the production he's been able to have, and obviously how he impacts everybody from afar. I see that, and I have a lot of respect for that. So those are nice words from him. And I think, again, you're talking about a really good team, a really good defense, a well-coached team. And for us, we just have to control the things that we can going into this game.
Everybody's buddies. Look at that. That's just beautiful. Everyone's respecting one another. It's just fantastic. The more important thing, as far as I'm concerned, from Jalen Hurts yesterday is this whole idea of the Super Bowl hangover, okay? And whether or not there's going to be this rut that the Eagles are going to fall into. And if they're going to fall into a rut against anybody, they're going to start off not so great against, Bill Belichick, for instance. Despite the fact that I think the Eagles are going to win this game, despite the fact that I don't believe that the Super Bowl rut is going to affect the Eagles in any way. And it comes down to leadership and talent. And the Eagles have a plethora of both of those. So that's what I'm looking at as far as the Eagles avoiding any Super Bowl hangover. So yesterday during the press conference, Jamie Apodi asked Jalen Hurts about the goal and more or less establishing a good tone for the rest of the season in week one. And here's where Jalen Hurts' focus is at going into week one.
I think for us, it's coming out and setting the tone. Setting the tone looks like a team that's playing with high intensity, high focus, attention to detail, being relentless, and controlling the things that we can. You know, I think you play team football, everybody has a role. Everybody has a role, and I think over the years I've been able to see the importance of that and learn the importance of those roles. And no role is more important than the other. Everybody has to put their hand in and dominate their box so we can get the finished product that we want. And so,
translation, do your job. The other thing that jumps out to me about that is relentless. No matter what's happening in the game, you have to have the poise, professionalism, the fortitude to push on through and do your job. And that's what Jalen Hurts was talking about yesterday. And again, because of the leadership and because of the talent, that's a lethal combination. And I do believe overall, regardless whose idea it is to have Nick Sirianni call the plays or not, I believe this is a very well-coached team. I look forward to seeing what Brian Johnson is going to do as an offensive coordinator. And man, oh man, does he have a lot of weapons to deploy. I think I've talked about all offseason. The biggest question going into this year is the coordinators. How good are the coordinators? I'm not worried about Brian Johnson because I think he's an embarrassment of riches on his offense. Defensively, you got some veterans there. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, and yes, Josh Sweat, a veteran at this point. Hassan Reddick, no doubt. Darius Slay, James Barber, Avonte Maddox. You got a lot of veterans as well. But then you got some young guys, some brand new cars in the garage here. How are you going to take them out? How are you going to put them out there on the road? How are you going to look at a guy like Jalen Carter? How are we going to be looking at him by midway point of the season? Jordan Davis, a young man as well. Not a rookie, but a young man, a young guy in his career. Nolan Smith. How are all these guys going to come together? Sidney Brown, how is he going to progress as the season goes on? All this goes to Sean Desai. How are you going to use these guys? You got a brand new middle linebacker in Nakobe Dean. He's only got 34 snaps under his belt defensively, and I'm sure we've heard that stat enough through the offseason. The bigger question of the two coordinators for me is Sean Desai. But that's also a good thing, as I mentioned earlier, where I talked about Sean Desai in his press conference yesterday, talking about what advantage he might have. They haven't seen me. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. So I found that interesting. From Jalen Hurts to Bill Belichick and Sean Desai, what they had to get into in yesterday's conversation. Well, one last thing before I get to the chat check, because I have to make sure I get this in here. James Harden, there's a story put out by Ramona Shelbourne of ESPN surrounding James Harden, and go figure, he wasn't exactly the greatest teammate in the world, especially after the team and Joel Embiid and Doc Rivers took issue with him going. I shouldn't say the team because apparently the front office granted him permission, but he traveled separately to Miami to enjoy the nightlife in Miami ahead of a Sixers game in Miami. Regardless if it's team approved, why are you asking? And apparently that rubs some people the wrong way. Doc Rivers being one of them, Joel Embiid being another one. Now there's another story out there about Joel Embiid assuring the Sixers that he's good. He's good to wait it out with this whole James Harden fiasco. Okay. I get the sense, because I don't think there's really any other huge upside. But after the James Harden smoke settles, after the dust settles, and after the smoke clears, I should say, I get the sense that the Sixers just want to make sure Joel Embiid is surrounded by as many people that really want to win as possible. And I don't think James Harden really fits that category. There are a lot of other things that James Harden is interested in. And look, hey, I'm not faulting the guy for it, but when it comes to just wanting to win and not having distractions, I don't really think James Harden fits that bill good. I don't think he fits it well. So when you look at James Harden, all the other things he has going on in his life, whether it's the charitable organization, which is fantastic, keep doing that. That's wonderful. The wine endeavor, the taco joints, what is it? The gyms, the fitness gyms that he's got in Houston. That's all great. Good for you. But that's all stuff that the guy is preparing to do after his basketball career, just in a basketball sense, just in a basketball context. I get the sense that with the adding Danny Green, the only reason they're doing that, it's not because Danny Green's going to come here and sink 5 threes a game. It's not because Danny Green's going to come here and play 20 to 30 minutes a game. Like, that's not the case. They want to pack this locker room with guys who just want to win. That's why PJ Tucker is still here. That's why Patrick Beverley is still here in the event that PJ Tucker does get shipped away with James Harden. That's the only thing. You think Tobias Harris doesn't want to win? Tobias Harris wants another big fat contract. He's only going to do that if he's on a team that wins. He's going to get a nice big fat contract, but it's not going to be like what he's getting now unless he wins. And Tyrese Maxey, you're damn right. Tyrese Maxey wants to win. So in light of the story coming out with Ramona Shelbourne talking about how James Harden wasn't exactly the best guy, which, by the way, James Harden has responded on Instagram saying, lies. Whatever. He called the Woj report a lie about not wanting to be in Philadelphia anymore. And that was going back to, what, Christmas last year? So I take whatever James Harden is saying with a grain of salt. But when it comes to this Sixers team, with or without James Harden, I'm definitely without James Harden. I prefer the without James Harden more so than anything. And I prefer the guys on the roster that are just focused on basketball and wanting to win now. And hopefully that's going to be the case. Now, let's get into the chat check and see how you wonderful people are doing. Starting on the Farzy show. See everybody over here. April, IBH. Whoops. IBH, what's going on? April, how are you? Sean Kilrain, what's going on? Wheeler was dealing once again. Ring the bell. You damn right, Sean. Mally, what's up, Mally? Nice to see you. Professor Dutch saying good morning, all. Sean Kilrain, do you see it when Schwarber trots around the bases like Babe Ruth? It's a Schwarblast. I mean, he's here's the thing. He looks portly, but then when you see him in person, he looks jacked. Like, yeah, he doesn't have six-pack chiseled abs that glisten in the sun, right? No, he doesn't have that. You know what he has? He's got broad shoulders, huge arms. Like, he reminds me in a way of, like, Jim Thome used to call it country strong. Kyle Schwarber looks country strong, no doubt. April says she sees Pat Burrell when she sees Kyle Schwarber run. You know what I see when I see Kyle Schwarber run? I know what's one of the popular things on I think it's whatever, TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is, where people look at him and they think he's Ted, the teddy bear from the movie Ted. When he's running, it looks like Kyle Schwarber. I guess. When he's rounding the bases, excuse me. When he's rounding the bases, what the hell? Oh boy. Getting a little verklempt talking about him. I'm so emotional. Kyle Schwarber is a runner. It's fantastic. Mally, it's like I know having you in the chat, I know what you think this is, but it's not, I swear. Jason AT, what's going on? Farzy, thank God the Phillies turned it around last night. Absolutely. What? Sean Kilran, rushing yards since 2021. Eagles, Ravens, Bears. Oh, that's the order. Okay. Eagles are the first team. April puffed too hard. Yeah, right. Rushing yards since 2021. Eagles are first with, well, the Eagles, the Ravens, and the Bears. Yeah, I can see it happening again. Here's one thing. If I can make one request, and this would really make me happy when it comes to the Eagles. Look, if the Eagles are in a goal line situation, first and goal from the one, whatever, first and goal from the half-yard line, whatever it might be, can I just make the request that the first play not be Jalen Hurts, the quarterback sneak, the tush push? Can I just make that one request? Can we at least try to put Rashad Penny between the tackles, or Kenny Gainwell, or DeAndre Swift? Can we just try that first before we try the tush push? Yeah, I know it's successful all the time, but it's one less hit. One less time you're putting Jalen Hurts in peril. That's my only request. Jumping over to the Jacob Media. What's going on? Darius Young, what's going on? Happy week one. Happy week one, Darius Young. Nice to have you. Appreciate you. And all you fine people over here at the Jacob Media YouTube chat. Folks, we have a much-needed day off today from our Philadelphia Phillies. Let's get to the morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. We have a much-needed break from the Phillies today. Very excited about a night off from the Phils. But the NFL does open their season tonight. For those fantasy owners that had Travis Kelce, how do you play him in this game? I don't think you can play Travis Kelce in this game after hyperextending his knee at Tuesday's practice. I don't think you can do that. That would be, I think, a very bad thing. With that being said, I think he plays. I don't think they can't allow him to play. I think it's a matter of keeping him out of the game. Like you got to save him from himself. You got a whole season ahead of you. Might as well just give us another break. More rest, if you ask me. So that's what I think the Kansas City Chiefs should do. But is Travis Kelce going to want to sit out week one? The season opener tonight, 8:20. NBC has the game. The Chiefs are a 4.5-point favorite in the game against the Detroit Lions. With or without Jason Kelce, as much as the Lions have helped their defense through the draft, as much as the Lions can have added to the defense in the offseason, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson being one of them, Aiden Hutchinson coming out for another great year. This time is a sophomore season, right, in the NFL. I think that's great. The Lions adding Jahmyr Gibbs, shipping DeAndre Swift to Philadelphia, adding David Montgomery. The Lions have done a lot, but I still don't think it's going to be enough to beat Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs tonight. So I got the Chiefs winning that one, as does most of America, as the NFL season gets underway tonight, 8:20 in Kansas City. So I do like the Chiefs tonight. I like the Chiefs covering with or without Jason Kelce. How about Travis Kelce? How about Travis Kelce affecting the line as much as he has as a non-quarterback? That's pretty remarkable. Phillies will be back at it tomorrow, by the way. 7:05, South Philadelphia starting a 3-game series with the Marlins. And one last thing. The San Francisco 49ers have finally settled that dispute with Nick Bosa. Absolutely insane. A 5-year, good Lord, a 5-year, $170 million contract makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. That is pretty spectacular. It's a shame he plays for a fan base that whines all the time. But anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. My name is Mark Farzyshow. This is the Farzy Show. For the people on the podcast, thank you so much. For the people on YouTube, everywhere else, like, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. Jim Hyde improves the program, did a wonderful job as per usual. Be back with you guys tomorrow. Talk about the NFL season openers tonight. Chiefs and Lions, and then the Phillies and what they got lying ahead of them in the not-too-distant future. Also, Brian Johnson will address the media today. Look forward to hearing what he has to say about this Eagles offense going up against the Bill Belichick defense. Talk to you guys tomorrow. See you. Bye.